and welcome to Newswatch. This 27th of September 2021, as the country continues to witness charged political scenes with politicians and presidential aspirants crisscrossing the country in unquenched passion to win the hearts of Kenyans as 2022 approaches. Tonight on Newswatch, we're going to be talking about the dynamics of politics and the current political formations in the country. I'm Tony Omondi, and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Murithi. Let's begin with some good news. Now, the country's COVID-19 positivity rate has hit a new record low in months of 2.2% after 54 people tested positive in the last 24 hours. According to the Ministry of Health, a sample size of 2,501 was tested in the last 24 hours. Total caseload stands at 248,515. The latest figures were announced by Health CS Mutahi Kagwe in Murang'a County when he laid the foundation stone for the new facilities at Kigumo Sub-County Hospital. Kagwe exuded confidence that the country may fully open up as vaccination drives continue to bear fruit. Meanwhile, 7 patients have succumbed to the disease, bringing the total 7 patients have succumbed, bringing the total fatalities to 5,109. At the same time, CS Kagwe has announced that 437 patients have recovered from the disease, bringing the total recoveries to 240,672. In terms of admissions, a total of 1,126 patients are currently admitted in various health facilities countrywide, while 2,586 are under the home-based isolation and care program. 73 patients are in the intensive care unit ICU. Now, the race to State House is continuing to gain momentum as Kenyans highly anticipate the general election, which will be held on 9th August 2022. Politicians are already hunting for votes, but this time there's a huge paradigm shift due to the youth factor, who are the majority in the country. As Kennedy Kimani reports, ethnic-based politics, which has traditionally played a key role in Kenyan politics, may no longer carry the weight compared to the previous election.
According to the 2019 population and census results, 75% of the total 47.6 million Kenyans are under the age of 35. 6 million of them have attained the voting age in the past 5 years, making politicians battle for the youth, who will play a big role in determining the winner of next year's presidential election. Traditionally, Kenyan politics has been about the tribal cards, but the main discussion in the political scene has slowly shifted to ideology-based politics, with politicians outclassing each other with different economic models. Speaking in Meru Town, Deputy President William Ruto stated that his hustler movement and bottom-up economic model is meant to empower the less privileged and not inside the Kenyan youth, as his political nemesis purports.
Ni jukumu ya serikali kupanga sera na mikakati ambayo itahakikisha ya kwamba kila kijana anapata ajira ama anapata biashara, kwa sababu hiyo ndio jukumu ya serikali. Wale hamuna kazi na hamuna biashara, it is because the government has let you down. And that is why tunasema safari hii tunataka kuunda serikali itakayoanza na mtu ambaye ni jobless.
The deputy president has however come under sharp criticism from ODM leader Raila Odinga, who trashed the kazi ni kazi ideology, saying that Kenyans deserve better jobs.
Kazi vijana tunapewa mafunzo, alafu wanapata kazi ya maana. Sio unaambiwa wewe kijana ati kazi ni kazi. Kazi ni kazi. Kazi ni kazi, hiyo ni takataka.
On Monday, a group of leaders associated with presidential hopeful Dr. Mukisa Kitui, known as the Sawa Movement, told off Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala on remarks he made regarding Mukisa Kitui being coronated as the Luhya gatekeeper. The leaders further stated that Mukisa Kitui is not interested in tribal politics, but politics of ideologies.
We wish to take this very early opportunity to make a clarification of the stories doing rounds in the media that our presidential candidate, His Excellency Dr. Mukisa Kitui, was coronated as the Luhya gatekeeper. Dr. Kitui is not interested in such a title, if at all it exists in the first place.
Those are nonsensical politics yenye imepitwa na wakati. Tunataka mtu akuja na sera. Usituambie unapakainia community. We want every part of this country.
With less than a year to the 2022 polls, Kenya's presidential race has been a bridge to economic issues, with politicians targeting the youth, where a majority of them don't identify with the tribal language used in the past. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, ODM party leader Raila Odinga is on a charm offensive political tour of the larger Mount Kenya region as he seeks to counter Deputy President William Ruto's influence in the region, which usually votes as a bloc in a general election. Odinga on Monday toured Murang'a and Nyeri counties, where he made several roadside stopovers and addressed residents a day after touring Laikipia County. And as Dickens Luvanda reports, 4 governors from Mount Kenya region have pledged to support Odinga ahead of next year's general election.
Even though he is yet to publicly declare that he will be on the presidential ballot in the August 2022 general elections, ODM party leader Raila Odinga has embarked on an extensive tour of the country as he seeks to dilute the influence of Deputy President William Ruto's hustler campaign.
Niliposema Kibaki tosha, Moi alisema Raila amekwisha kisiasa. Nimerudi. Wengine walisema ati baba hawezi kupanda mlima.
Odinga on Monday met for Mount Kenya governor before heading to Murang'a and Nyeri counties, where he made several roadside addresses a day after he toured Laikipia County.
We've had a long and fruitful discussion with the Prime Minister, focusing on areas of mutual interest to our region. In particular, we discussed at length the issue of expanding local economic opportunities through the creation of sustainable institutions. We have also discussed the growth of the economy, and we conclude that this must be supported by very sound institutions and not by tokenism.
Odinga met Nakuru Governor Ali Kinyanjui, James Nyoro of Kiambu County, Nderitu Murithi of Laikipia, and Francis Kimemi of Nyandarua County, who pledged to rally the people of the mountain to support Odinga ahead of the next polls.
This is a part of consultative meetings that we are holding across the country with our people. It is a process of dialogue so that we can be able to identify problems affecting different parts of the country and come up with the requisite policies to address those issues.
During a press conference in Nairobi County, the governor said their meeting with the Odinga will be followed by a series of other consultative meetings across the region that will conclude with a declaration.
Nimeingia Narumoru, nimeingia Chaka, nimeingia Karatina, nimeingia Sagana, nimeingia Makutano, sasa niko Kenol.
Mount Kenya region remains divided on who to back in the 2022 presidential election, as One Kenya Alliance presidential hopefuls Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka also make inroads in the region to counter DP Ruto's influence.
Lakini kazi ya maana. Hapana unamkuambiwa ati wewe ni ati kazi ni kazi.
Odinga's tour in the region saw him chide DP Ruto's hustler narrative and the bottom-up economic model, saying he is out to tell Kenyans lies for political gains. Dickens Luvanda, Hope TV Newswatch.
Still in politics, Mvita Member of Parliament Abdul Samad Nasir has insisted that he will vie for the Mombasa gubernatorial seat in the next general election, telling off his political detractors. He has rubbished reports that he would vie for the Mombasa senatorial position, saying nothing will stop him from going for the county's top seat. Nasir spoke when he met members of the Power Unity Group at Kachongo village in his constituency.
Sasa wanazusha na mengine wanasema kwa Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir sijui hawani ugavana. My friend, I'm in this seat. Mimi niko katika kinyang'anyiro cha ugavana. Wacha mimi nawaambia wacheni fanyeni zile sijui ati aliongea kwa Facebook sijui Photoshop hivi. Kiingereza unasema ya kuwa the truth never needs support, eventually it will stand up on its own. Ukweli hauna haja ya mahali kuegemea. Mwishowe utainuka wenyewe, sio? Na ukweli utadhihirika. Nyinyi endeleeni na propaganda, sisi tunaendelea na kazi. Nyinyi endeleeni kunyima watu, sisi tutawapa watu. Nyinyi endeleeni kuvunjia watu, sisi tutawajengea watu. Nyinyi endeleeni kugandamiza watu, sisi tutaweza kuhakikisha ya kwa wale mliowagandamiza tutaangalia haki zao. Nyinyi endeleeni kuwa nyanyasaji, sisi tutahakikisha ya kwa sisi kazi yetu ni kupigania watu. And if that is what asks you, hilo ndio ambalo kwamba la kukera, my friend, tafuta kaburi uanze kulichimba kabisa. Tena tafuta kaburi lile la siasa uanze kulichimba. Kwa sababu mimi kama Abdulswamad Sharif Nassir, if there's one thing you will never deny, ni mapenzi watu wako nao kwangu mimi.
The Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, has reiterated that he will not coalesce with leaders currently in government and those whose names have been tainted. The Speaker, who spoke at SK Church, Kibugu in Embu County, during a fundraiser for the church, was responding to leaders. He was responding to leaders who had asked him rather to form a coalition. Muturi was accompanied by several leaders, among them acting Nairobi Governor Anne Kananu and Manyata MP John Mushiri, who rooted for a Muturi presidency. The Speaker has been under pressure to form a coalition to boost his presidential bid come 2022.
Sisi hapa Embu tumejipanga na tumehusisha ndugu zetu waheshimiwa wa Mount Kenya hii yote East. Tuko karibu watu 19 wajumbe na maseneta, wote ni wajumbe, lakini wote anaweka hiyo tofauti kidogo ndio mjue how serious we are. Na tukasema hakuna mtu atakuja aseme atatuweka kwa bakuli moja ama kwa kikapu moja, atuonyeshe mwelekeo. Jicho letu, mwelekeo wetu ni Speaker of the National Assembly Honorable JB Muturi.
Na tukiwa watu ya Mount Kenya tungetaka mambo yetu yote iende through Speaker Justin Muturi.
Let us have a spokesperson from Embu. When Kikuyus are doing their own thing, when Luyas are doing their own thing, when Kalenjins are doing their own thing, let us have somebody who can speak on our behalf. We also need a share of that national cake.
This country is sufficiently rich, but we cannot be in office to enrich ourselves. We're in office to serve people. That's what is expected of us. So for me, it is service to our people. For me, the most critical is whether you are capable of being trusted, your believability. Do you preach? Do you do what you preach?
All right, let's now get to our interview tonight with our special guest in the studio. His name is Alex Mwadhi, who is a political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on this show and welcome, sir.
Thank you, and good evening, viewers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, we want to talk about the politics of the country. Of course, we've seen a lot of action in the political arena recently, and all politicians, especially presidential aspirants, are crisscrossing the country looking for votes. We've seen, of course, Raila Odinga camping in the central region, while Deputy President William Ruto touring the western region to woo voters. Now, these two moving to regions they don't enjoy a majority of support. Is there a shift in the way politics is going to play out in this season? Seems like the country has opened up to everyone as opposed to the past, where we saw presidential aspirants avoiding areas they termed hostile to them.
In the last 4 years, the deputy president has made huge inroads in Mount Kenya region.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, what has happened is that he's shifted the non-political inclination where people mainly concentrate on areas where they have the greatest support and start moving out into the areas other areas closer to the elections,
mm-hmm.
to an extent that the politics of this country for the first time are focused on an area that really did not have that heated political debate. If you remember, in the past, the hotbeds for politics were Nyanza and Mombasa. And you find that at this moment, those two areas are very quiet. And so there's a kind of a shift towards Mount Kenya region, as if is the one that has a highest vote harvest. Now, the thing is that may be true, but also you remember that Mount Kenya region, the President Uhuru Kenyatta will be finishing his term in the next election, and hence will not be available for what you call for election, and hence the 6 million or so votes that in the Mount Kenya region are up for grabs, and that's why there's this movement.
With these once hostile areas, accepting them both, that is Raila, Ruto, Mudavadi, Kalonzo, all these presidential aspirants, would you say we're now witnessing a more politically mature environment and a tolerant one, or we're not yet in the electioneering period where politics are usually charged up?
Yes, that's a fact. And it has also been helped a lot by the fact that after the handshake of the 9th March 2018, the ODM party has not been very, very active, as it were, in terms of campaigning or in terms of raising up issues against the government, against anybody. They have been quiet and working behind the scenes and working with the government of the day. And that has ensured that the temperatures that would rise up around this time have not started. So it's now that the leaders are trying to bring up people and to raise up those temperatures. So that has also helped in terms of quietening the politics in the hotbeds of this country, because that was mainly the ODM, the opposition, that joined the government. So there have been quietness. So we expect to see much more political upheavals in the coming days, culminating maybe in December, January. I expect a lot of political rhetoric picking up. But I believe that the politics that we'll see this time will not be as violent or as vulgar as there has been in the past. I see a situation where it will be more mature, as it were.
As we talk about a politically mature environment, all aspirants have now called their slogans and mantras around their campaigns, including the bottom-up, the Azimio la Umoja, Inawezekana, Fagia Water, etc. Are we seeing a more focused agenda-based politics, or are politicians just trying to create pockets of support across the country?
Propaganda is about three things. Politics is about three things at anywhere you go in the world. Basically, the first thing is personality cult. Number two is creating propaganda. And number three, seducing the masses with that propaganda. And strategists in politics are able to sit back and look at what can resonate more easily with the people of a certain area. Out of what can resonate, then you create a propaganda, because you've already created a personality cult. Like, for example, in this country, we have about 5 or 6 people that when they come in the public, they are seen to be leaders. You have Kalonzo Musyoka, you have Mudavadi, you have William Ruto, you have Uhuru Kenyatta, you have people like Raila Odinga, and a couple of others, and people like Orengo, who have really gone down in terms of being in the public eye. So personality cult are created. Then you create a propaganda. And propaganda now is that this country is struggling in the economy. We are struggling with huge poverty, we're struggling with taxes, we are struggling, and the average young person who constitute about 70% of the population of the Republic of Kenya are the young people who now are clamoring for jobs, for employment, and because they finish university and there is no work. So the political strategists know that what can resonate with this group of people is someone who talks about improving the economy and bringing an economy closer to them, providing jobs for them, providing a way of earning a living. And that's why you see now the propaganda that has been created is around that. Whichever person you look at, he's looking at how do I improve the young people's thing. But it's just rhetoric, it's propaganda, and that will be used to seduce the masses in the coming days.
On the same note, Mr. Mwadhi, we've seen DP Ruto champion for the lifting of the youths through what we call the bottom-up economic model. When he began with the Hustler movement, he said, one day, the conversation will change in the country. Do you feel like the conversation has now changed, that is also shifting from tribal politics and politics of division to meaningful politics, where all presidential aspirants have something more than just dependence on tribal affiliation?
He has struggled to do that in the last 4 years, and kudos to him and credit to him that the politics up to date that focus on the coming election has shifted more away from the original that we knew of the tribal formations that came together. I think him and his main contender, Raila Odinga, are talking every time they talk about improving the youth, employment, and that rhetoric is good because it draws people away from the things that used to make people fight in the past. Yeah. But you'll notice that there have been an effort to recreate that tribal affiliations. In the central Kenya right now, we have about 11 political parties that have been formed. Some of the old ones, the PNU, the DP, and all that are being revived, and people are coming up to create a personality card using them. You saw in Kitengela, we have a party from some Nyanza, Kisii region. We have seen Mombasa, Honorable Kingi and the rest are trying to start their own political party. So at the background, there are people who are trying to create the same system that you have known of creating tribal parties that come and coalesce together, and hence that bring in the tribal heat. But I think they are late. They are very late in the day to be able to have any effect in the coming campaign that are coming next year.
Now, this race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta seems to have attracted the highest number of presidential aspirants than ever before in the history of the country. Why are we seeing this?
Because everybody seems to think they have a solution for this country. And everybody seems to think that they can create something that can cause people to rally behind them. And especially in central Kenya, because Mount Kenya region, because Uhuru Kenyatta is not vying next year, there are a couple of people who think that they can actually be able to succeed him in the presidential election. But it's a lot of heat, and all of them are self-seekers, and they are looking for their own self-interest, not for Wanjiko's or not for the common man's interest. They're trying to find vehicles, because if I announce I want to fight for the presidency, people will call me along the table so that you can negotiate, and in the next government, I can be given a seat. If you ask me, 2022 is a fight between two horses, Raila Odinga, William Ruto, and the rest, and a few donkeys, and others that will join those coalitions.
Yeah. Now, politicians, especially the deputy president and ODM leader Raila Odinga, seem to be pulling a lot of crowds. I mean, despite even the dangers of COVID-19, we're still seeing huge numbers and following during political rallies. Do these crowds translate to real votes when it comes to election, or it's just like the kind of a political illusion?
We've had the crowds in the past following every politician. A lot of people, when you go to, in this country, when they hear some leaders are coming, there are a lot of people that go to the meetings just to be able to see them. So these crowds sometimes don't mean votes. They mean that there are people who need to see the person who is addressing the masses, and they want to be part of what is happening, as it were, in their villages or in their towns. This may not really reflect the vote, because if DP Ruto goes to Nyeri, there will be a huge crowd. If Raila Odinga goes, there will be a huge crowd, and that happens all over the country. And we have seen that even over the weekend when Deputy President William Ruto was in Migori. These huge crowds came to his meetings. This might not necessarily translate into votes at the end of the day.
Now, as politicians begin to make inroads into, if I may call them, the uncharted territories of the country, we've seen ODM leader Raila Odinga trying his best to capture the attention of Mount Kenya people. Do you feel the handshake is going to help him garner much of his support from the region? And is the handshake a tool for campaign for Raila, especially in the Mount Kenya region?
Of course, it's a strong tool in that, if you remember the campaigns of 2017, Uhuru Kenyatta kept saying that he's going to rule for 5 years and will hand over to William Ruto for another 5 years. Immediately after that election, then the handshake happened. And with the handshake happening, then that shifted, because now Raila has been seen to have supported Uhuru Kenyatta during these 4 years of his leadership in the second term. And that Raila will obviously completely capitalize on look, give me a hand because I gave you a hand. I supported you over the 5 years, support me now. And that is why the Central Kenya leaders are also going around saying that this man has helped us. Let's also be able to give him a chance to vie. Yep.
And just the other day, Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria was reported saying that whoever wants the mountain vote should be ready to pick a running mate from the region. What's the significance of this, and is it really necessary or important in winning the 2022 election?
That's just politics, and we know the politics that we play is keep mentioning things that we hope that somebody will hear and somebody will follow up. It's just a wishful thinking, and the winner must choose somebody who will give him support. But in our political situation, we must also admit that patronage is critical. And like I said earlier, that the Mount Kenya region is known to be vote-rich. And so that might be a huge consideration for anybody who vies to be able to pick his deputy so that those votes can come to them. Because unfortunately, as a country, 60 years after independence, we haven't gotten out of this rut of thinking that when our man is there, we'll benefit. I pray that a day is coming when we'll realize that it's not our man that brings goods, it's a good leader that brings good to us.
Wow. Let's talk about political parties for a moment. When you analyze the current political formations, party defectors, and the emergence of what we call regional parties, do you see a picture of liberation for Kenya or a more politically tense environment? Because each region wants to have its own political vehicle and each region wants a presidential aspirant.
Unfortunately, the higher the number of political parties and the more they become tribal, the less this country becomes progressive and the less democracy becomes real in this country. Because unfortunately, the parties are being started by people who are self-seekers, people who are selfish in terms of they're not considering the common mwananchi, because you have 2-3 parties in the same district. What are the people talking about? This country will only move forward, and I'm happy to say that we are ahead of other nations by all means, but we haven't reached even a tip of potential. When we realize our problems are 5: 1, poverty; 2, illiteracy; 3, health; 4, housing; 5, food safety. Now, those 5 items that affect everyone in this country knows no tribe, knows no region, knows no leadership, knows no those political parties. It only requires someone to stand in front of us and be able to say, how am I going to solve the issues of health? How am I going to solve the issue of illiteracy? How am I going to solve the issue of housing, food safety, and housing? If any leader can come up with that, that's the way progress. So your question, will this help us? No, they will not help us, because this will divide us even much more than we are divided at the moment.
As parties are being formed all over the country, politicians are calling for political parties with a national outlook. So in a nutshell, what is this national outlook, and maybe how can political parties achieve this national outlook so that Kenyans have confidence?
A political party, to have a national outlook, must have members across the country. A party that is being formed today, or a party that is being revived today, does not have time to be able to be national. If the leaders who are starting the small parties really think about this country and care about this country, they would look at other parties and identify the party that may have an ideology. Because unfortunately, none of the political parties in Kenya have any ideology whatsoever. Not ODM, not Jubilee. They are all parties that are run by individuals for the purpose of winning elections. And once elections are won, they forget their manifestos extremely quickly. I think by midnight of the day they win an election, they forget their manifestos, which means they have no ideals. And I think if we, and God help us, that in the coming future that we can have parties that have ideologies, then they can become national. If you start a party called Tujibebe, I don't know, whatever other part of that Tujibebe or Kenya or something like that, and you start in Thika, and you start recruiting people in Thika, when do you think you'll reach recruiting everyone in this country to have a national face? It takes time. It's only a party like ODM that one can say it's to a large extent a national party, and Jubilee was also a national party, but the rest are really not national parties. And as long as we have parties that are not national, we'll always have this problem of people wanting to use parties as vehicles to get to leadership. And once they get to leadership, they forget why they went to leadership. You know, have you heard the story of the turtle on a post? So that you find a lot of politicians and are like turtles on the post. The question is, how do they get there? What are they doing there? And how are they going to get out there? Because you have 290 members of parliament, But I can assure you, only about 30 or so participate in every debate. The rest don't even know why they're in parliament.
You talked about ideologies and this idea behind the formation of political parties. But my question will be, what advantages maybe probably would independent candidates have over political parties?
Independent candidates have no advantage over political parties whatsoever. Because if you have a party that has ideology, say for example, is a Labour Party, a party that looks at the welfare of the workers in the country. And in the process, how can we improve the welfare of the workers? And then tackle the 5 items that I've mentioned earlier in looking at the workers. Or you have a party that looks about the social element of the country. Or a party that looks at the economic models and how we can build that. That could help us because people of the same thoughts can come together and be able to discuss issues, pass laws in parliament that help this country move in a certain direction as per the ideology that they have. Independent candidates will not be able to match that because they will be independent. They're individuals, as it were. And there's a place for them in our constitution. There's a place for them in our parliament. There's a place for them in our government. But if you ask me, if we had a party that had ideology, I would prefer that because it would be able to move more masses towards a certain goal.
Okay. Finally, let's talk about politics and the church versus politics and the youth of this country. The church seems to be shaping the conversation in hosting politicians and maybe failing in some way to hold leaders accountable in fighting corruption. So what must the church do in order to remain relevant?
Very good question. I think I would address the question you've asked earlier about the politicians holding meetings and hence the spread of COVID. In the month of August, I was admitted in hospital for about 10 days, and I was struggling with my breathing and oxygen, and because of COVID. And it's something that you don't wish for anyone. I thank God, and by the grace of God, I came out. And when I see those political rallies happening today, I feel my blood clinch because I feel so much pain that these people don't care that people can perish because of this. And I've many times on television shows, I've appealed to politicians to be sensible, and I'm talking about all of them, to be sensible that this country is in a pandemic, and we must really, really be careful what we do. When you have those masses that are going around, then the rate of infection goes up. I'm happy that the rate of infection today has dropped to about 2.2%, and I hope that's real, a real number. Having said that, I believe that there's a place for the church and there's a place for politics. And I think the two, and a lot of people don't agree with me, don't meet. They're separate. There's the Levites and there's the king. And I'm happy that some of the churches have announced that they won't allow politicians to address congregations in church because that desecrates in my opinion, that desecrates the pulpits that the preachers stand on. If people want to be addressed, let them move out. I was shocked this week because the moderator for PCA said that the PCA will not allow politicians to speak in church. And I think the church in Nanyuki allowed Honorable Raila Odinga. I know people are saying he didn't speak politics, but he was speaking because he's a politician. I wish people could learn from a couple of bishops that I know in this town who not allow any politicians to speak on their pulpits. They just ask the politicians to wave irrespective of who they are. Because I think there's a place for church and a place for politics. And church is not a place for politics. I wish the pastors could understand that the calling is to draw people to Jesus Christ. Make it disciples of them and send them to go out there and disciple others. Their job is not to control or to kind of lead the way leadership will be. When Jesus Christ was on earth, in my opinion, the Jews were under the Roman Empire. He didn't spend even one moment to try to fight the Roman Empire. Remember, he was God. He would have finished them in a twinkle of an eye. But he didn't do it. Why? Because he was showing that there's this way, that narrow way, and there's a wider way. May we, as a church, be able to stay away from politics.
Okay, now my very last question. The youth also seem to be the center of conversations when it comes to politics and politicians wooing voters. Are the church and the youth a future political indicator of strength, and maybe political potential in terms of shaping the leadership of the country?
Youth, this country belongs to the youth. the estimate is that about 60 to 70% of the population is under the age of 35.
Yeah.
Which means that in the coming, these people who are between 35 and whatever, are the people that really owns this country. And my prayer normally every single day is that the young people, the youth, could realize this is their country because they're the majority and start working towards bringing a different era that puts away tribalism, puts away selfishness, and puts together selflessness in leadership of this country. And I keep praying that that will happen with the young people that are there. They should be so frustrated with the current situation so that they can create their own situation.
Yeah.
The church has a role
to
raise these young men in integrity, in honesty, and desire to serve the rest, and leave them to be able to go on with that leadership. Not to influence them, not to follow them, not to call them, not to cajole them. But when you teach about Christ and his principles of self-righteousness, people will go out there and serve others selflessly.
Okay, thank you. That's Alex Mother for us, political analyst, just speaking to us some of the issues happening in the political arena and demystifying some of these issues for us. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast tonight. Thank you so much for making time for us.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much. It's an honor.
Okay, let's now move on. Now, police in Madogo Ward, Tana River County, have exhumed a body of a middle-aged man from a shallow grave in Mororo area at the banks of River Tana. The body was found by a boy checking on their goats in the bushes who informed the neighbors and called the police. Tana North Sub-County Police Commander Ali Ndiema urged the residents to report any missing bodies for investigations. Dolly Murigi reports.
There was shock and disbelief in Tana River County after a body of a middle-aged man was exhumed from a shallow grave in Mororo area at the banks of River Tana. The body is said to have been found by a boy herding their goats in the bushes, who would later inform the neighbors and call the police. Tana North Sub-County Police Commander Ali Ndiema said the body has been moved to Garissa Referral Hospital mortuary for viewing and forensic examination. Ndiema urged members of the public who may have lost loved ones to report the incident to the nearest police station so that investigation could begin. Angry area residents have called on the government to clear the bushes along River Tana, which they claim is insecure to them.
Sisi kama wana kijiji wa Mororo tumekuwa na changamoto, haswa hii mto yetu iko hapa, tuko na changamoto kila wakati inatolewa mwili kwa maji. Hii si mara ya kwanza, kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali ikuja itusaidie, ifanye uchunguzi, ijue hao wahalifu wenye wanatuulia watu, wajue watuambie ni akina nani, watusaidie wakamate ili tupate usalama. Na vile vile tunaomba usaidizi serikali, hiyo kichaka kama hiyo, hata mtu amezikwa saa hii amekaa karibu mwezi, hatujui amewekwa lini hapo. Tunaomba serikali ikuje ifieke hiyo mahali yote, ili in terms of security tuwe hiyo mahali hata mtu asiweze pitama, ifungwe hiyo maeneo kabisa. Ifungwe, ikosekane hata watu wasipite hapo, kwa sababu kila wakati tunatoa watu kwa maji, hiyo kitu imekuwa too much.
Mororo Peace Chairman Juma Omar alleged that the criminals killing people may have changed tactics from dumping the victims into River Tana to burying them in shallow graves after the recent public outcry over bodies piled at Garissa mortuary.
Mororo imekuwa ni mali ambaye ya kuwa mtu kila siku, na tangu zamani hatujui mambo haya. Na mambo haya imetukumba sisi, hata sisi wakaji tunashangaa. Hata vile mnaona hata watoto wenyewe wako hapo wanashangaa kwa sababu ile vituko natokea. Mbeleni watu wanapita na maji, wanauawa wanapita na maji. Saa hii lakini imebadilishwa system ya kwamba ya kuzika mtu. Pali hapo alipo tulienda tuliona imezikwa hii mwili, na vile vile kuna mapamba zimewekwa hapo. Hiyo mapamba tujui ni ya nini. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali na wale community police ambao wako hapo na nyumba 10 tushirikiane tujue ni kitu gani kinaendelea.
However, police have found it difficult to begin investigation into the identities of the bodies, even as no one has come out to claim them or record any statement on missing persons. At least 16 bodies have been recovered from River Tana in the last 3 months. Dolly Mirigi for Hope TV Newswatch.
All right, with that, let's now take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more stories making headlines across the country. Just stay with us.
Ngarisha na Optiven. Guess what? It's just about the right time to build your dream home. At the Garden of Joy by Optiven. It comes with Maram roads, solar street lights, water piping along the mains, children play area, and a jogging truck. Get your value-added plot at only 1.495 million Kenyan shillings cash with flexible installment options for up to 12 months. Deposit 995,000 Kenyan shillings and get a free washing machine for your home. Ngarisha na Optiven. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Live online, Thursday through Friday, October 14th and 15th, 2021. Join thousands of curious, growth-minded, change-driven men and women like you for the premier leadership event of 2021, the Global Leadership Summit. Some of the world-class faculty includes Craig Goshel, Senior Pastor of Life Church, Jami Lima, Richard Montanes, who started off as a janitor and rose to be a top executive. Local faculty include Justice Daniel Musinga, who'll talk about the quest for justice, fairness, and equality. Bishop David Uginde, CEO and founder, the Carter Lead Associate. Daniel Kamau, CEO, Fusion Capital. Archbishop Eliud Wabuhala, Chairperson, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Committee. Among other speakers, guest musician will be Florence Morethi. To register, call 722-490325 or visit www.kenyaleadership.org. Everyone wins when a leader gets better.
Welcome back to Newswatch. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe said the government will now regulate medical services charges through the NHIF bill. Speaking while commissioning the construction of wards at Kigumo Health Center, Kagwe blamed private hospitals for exploiting Kenyans and taking advantage of sick people to inflate medical prices. According to him, the Ministry of Health is in the process of formulating a policy that will regulate hospitals to protect Kenyans.
Once the NHIF bill is over, we are going to regulate how much money you can charge. Because honestly, it cannot be that at Kenyatta National Hospital, an X-ray is 500 shillings or 600, and then in a private hospital, the same X-ray goes to 16,000 shillings. Why? Why? Kwani hii X-ray kuna inapigwa namna gani? We need to get to the point where the NHIF card pays for everything and everybody. Not just other diseases, but also even COVID-19. And the way to get it done is to make sure that as many people as possible have enrolled for NHIF. Once we have got that massive people, it is then possible to change what NHIF is offering to the public.
And women rights organizations in the Eastern region under the auspices of Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA Kenya, have called on the government to effectively implement policies and laws relating to sexual and gender-based violence, as well as FGM. The lobbyists who spoke over the weekend said there still exist gaps in policy and law implementation despite efforts being made by the government to address GBVs. Even with the laws in place, the women complained that certain types of violence against women and girls, including domestic violence and sexual abuse, had intensified.
Like to take this opportunity to call out the government to ensure that that girls in school and also out of schools are able to access sanitary towels. This is a song that we've been singing for years as women rights organizations, and it is the high time that the government ensures that this is done, and it should be done now. Let us have tax-free pads so that they are accessible and also affordable to all. And as women rights organizations, we urge the government to ensure that there is implementation of laws and policies that are already in place. We know that there are laws and policies that already exist, but are they punitive enough? Are they being implemented? This is something that we have said so many years, and we would now ask the government, it is now time to ensure implementation of these roles, because we are talking of sustainable development goals. SDG number 5, gender equality. How are we going to achieve this if the government does not support the civil society organizations or women rights organizations to ensure that we achieve this? So let this not be just a talk, let it also be in action, let it also be implemented so that we achieve the sustainable development goals and ensure that women and girls live fulfilled lives and enjoy their rights.
Sisi kama community wakati mwingi sisi ndio tunachangia. Usikubali kabisa kupewa chochote hata kama ni pesa kiasi gani. Hakuna ile pesa inaweza toshana na mtoto wako. Mtoto akiwa defiled ameharibiwa maisha yake forever. Kwa maana hata sahau vile alifanyiwa na itaishi na yeye na itamuaffect mpaka maisha yake ya usoni. Kwa hivyo mtoto wako kwa bahati mbaya akinajisiwa, akiwa defiled, tafadhali kwanza usioshe hayo manguo na kutoka hapo mpeleke and then police mreport ndio mwelekezwe kwenda hospitali mtoto apimwe, kwa sababu daktari pia atapeana evidence kotini.
The Parliamentary Committee on Security and National Administration Chair Peter Mwathi has pledged to have more funds released towards the construction of the Miritini Treatment and Rehabilitation Center. The center is expected to help address the drug abuse menace in the coastal region. Mombasa tops the chart of rampant drug abuse in the coast region, and it's this that prompted the president to give a directive for the construction of the rehabilitation center.
From 2020 February, we launched the outpatient unit with about 14 patients who are coming in every morning for their methadone dose and go back. The population has grown to the current population of 270. In March 2021, we were able to bring on board the inpatient team of about, I think there were about 30. And now that cohort went, and we have a second cohort of about 24 who are now in admission and going through a comprehensive rehabilitation process.
That this needs to be turned into a center for those people who are being rehabilitated from drug abuse. And since 2015, we noted from the brief from NACADA that it has been moving very slowly. And it was, of course, a concern to us that a project that is presidential directive can go this slow. And so we are here, first, to assess the facility. Secondly, we also want to know the programs that are being run here. One, to rehabilitate those people who have been abusing drugs, but most importantly, on what programs they have to ensure that people are sensitized against the use of drugs. So today we are on this one, and we shall be doing a report to Parliament to ensure that we have given them the gist of what is contained here.
Our parents and teachers and pupils of Kadama Primary School in Chakama location of Malindi Sub-County on Monday broke into songs and dance when members of the Rotary Club of Malindi gifted the school with 80 desks. The donation caught the school community by surprise, since the club had not announced that it will donate the desks in the school situated in one of the remotest parts of the sub-county. The school had for a long time suffered from inadequate infrastructure to support over 100 students who have been sitting on floors as they study.
We have come together with the Rotary Club of Malindi and with well-wishers, and we've managed to construct for now 80 desks that each can sit at least 2 children. So 160 children should be able to no longer sit on the floor. We have not yet filled the need, but we are in the process of trying to address those issues.
I organized my family, first of all. We manned 27 desks. And then the Rotary Club of Malindi manned 53 desks. That is a totaling of 80 desks. That is what we have brought today. And the surprise of it is that we never told them that we are doing anything to them. They got it as a surprise. That's why they were really moved.
Hapa tumekuwa na uhaba sana wa madawati na watoto wetu. Lakini Rotary Club leo imetukumbuka. Kusema kweli imekuwa ni kama miujiza tu. Sisi tunaomba, kumbe Mungu ametenda. Na tumeshukuru sana na Mungu awazidishie. Ila ni kwamba safari isiwe ya mwisho. Safari hii iwe safari ya muhimu ambayo tutashirikiana kuweza kusaidika hapa mahali.
Niko hapa kutoa shukrani zangu za dhati kwa shirika hili la Rotary Club of Malindi kwa sababu walipitia shule hii mwaka jana na tukawatembeza katika shule hii, wakajionea yale maendeleo ambayo tuko nayo na zile changamoto ambazo tuko nazo. Nataka kutoa shukrani za dhati kabisa kwa sababu hitaji la kwanza ambao walitusaidia ni upande wa vyoo. Tulipata vyoo milango 6. Hivyo viko kamili. Kwa upande wa wasichana hilo tatizo kusema kweli tumesaidika sana.
Veterinary doctors in Narok County have vaccinated at least 4,000 dogs against rabies in various villages of Narok West sub-county ahead of the World Rabies Day on Tuesday, September 28th this year. Led by the Kenya Director of Veterinary Sans Frontiers, VSF, Maurice Kiboye, the doctors on Saturday launched the campaign to vaccinate the dogs in mapped-out points to vaccinate at least 70% of the dog population. Rabies is a dangerous but preventable viral disease most often transmitted through the bite of a rabid animal.
Ni rahisi kutibu ama kuzuia kichaa kwa kuchanja umbwa, lakini itakuwa ni gharama kubwa sana wakati mtu ama mifugo anapoumbwa na mbwa mwenye kichaa. Pia ni siku ambayo imetengwa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya ili kusherehekea uhusiano bora kati ya mwenye umbwa na umbwa wake na katika pia mazingira ambayo alipo. Target yetu ni kufanya zaidi ya umbwa 4,000 na naona kwamba hiyo target hata nafikiri dawa ambayo tuko nayo inabidi tuongeze wakati mwingine.
So among the preventive mechanism we are promoting is vaccination. Likewise to the other conditions also like COVID-19, we are promoting communities to take the vaccine so that they can prevent the disease. So on this day, World Rabies Day, what we are really focusing is telling the communities facts about rabies and not fears.
For you to see if the symptoms of rabies in a human being, it goes almost 1 month. But between the dog bite and the moment the human being becomes sick, takes about 14 days. So after 14 days, it is not easy to treat a human being. A rabid dog, when it bites a human being, it transmits the disease. And when a human being is bitten by a rabid dog, your chances of dying is at 100%. Today, we know the cost of vaccinating these dogs here is much lower, costing about $5 if we put all our operations together. But the cost of treating a person infected by rabies through the dog bite costs not less than $40. And so you can see that the cost of treatment is much higher, and therefore we come with the fact that it is better to vaccinate your dogs than to wait until you are bitten and you try to look for treatment.
The Universal Health Coverage UHC that is being piloted in Kisumu County has received a major boost after stakeholders and partners revealed that it has been a success in the county. A study done by SafeCare has shown that a lot of health facilities have improved their services as well as other measures to grow their facilities. Some of the visited facilities are Muhoroni, Lumumba, and Nyakach, which showed a lot of improvement in terms of provision of healthcare.
in Nyeri County. So what we
findings are that there's a lot of movement in Kisumu County in terms of not only improving the healthcare quality, but also increasing healthcare coverage. So this is encouraging because the numbers are looking up. Most of the facilities have improved from the baselines to the subsequent evaluations. So if this trajectory is maintained, then I think Kisumu County is moving very well towards the tenets of universal health coverage.
Muhoroni, Nyakach, and Lumumba, and we also saw from the assessment that facilities that have a lot of partner influence have a lot of infrastructural growth, which also contributes to their overall good performance. Also, facilities that had been identified for COVID-19 isolation received a lot of support in terms of equipment, and that also contributed to their good performance.
We are seeing we are going to now use evidence to improve the gaps that have been identified. And the way we are going to do it is to involve everybody, because when we are improving quality, we start from the leadership to the service providers, of course to the community. So we'll be looking at both the demand and the supply side.
Any of these interventions will need serious quality interventions, which we have started. We are building the cancer center, which will need special assessment on its quality of delivery. And we are producing our own oxygen of high quality with the best machine in the country. Therefore, we are well placed to manage COVID. And our management of COVID is exemplary. So the issue of quality cannot be overstated. It is essential, it is a must, and this quality issue must be internalized by health workers.
Right, Newswatch takes another short break. Business and sports news is coming up next.
Imagine creating a space where people in our community, friends, neighbors, and co-workers can have conversations in a way that is honest and relaxed, where leaders don't have to have all the answers and anyone can ask questions. Alpha is a series of interactive sessions that explore the basics of the Christian faith. Alpha Kenya is launching Alpha in Swahili on 30th September 2021 from 3 p.m. Tune in and watch the live event on Hope TV or Alpha Kenya Facebook page as we launch Alpha za Filamu and Alpha za Kusikiliza. Alpha. Maisha. Imani. Mungu. For more information, visit www.kenya.alpha.org or text 0707 998 371.
Let's continue with business news. Absa Bank Kenya PLC has kicked off an ambitious digital literacy enhancement program targeting to establish 66 computer labs in schools across the country. The bank is investing 23 million shillings in the nationwide project that is being spearheaded in partnership with Computer for Schools Kenya CFSK and will see 1,500 computers donated to different schools in the coming months. The two organizations rolled out the initiative at the Kikuyu Township Primary School.
Today is just the initial launch of the first computer lab. We at ABSA are going to be installing 66 computer labs across the region, coastal region, Mount Kenya, Rift Valley, Nairobi, Western. And so we'll be working with our branch network to be able to implement 66 computer labs. And through this program, we are going to plant and grow some trees as well in partnership with the students and the schools so that we can be able to instill the environmental conservation. So when we look at the computer labs, we're investing about 23 million shillings as a bank to be able to have fully fledged computer labs which have furniture, and also about 20 million for the tree planting initiatives. So this is tree planting, but also setting up of nurseries within the schools. We want, as part of our initiative, to plant 10 million trees in the next 5 years. We are going to work with schools to make sure we have enough seedlings, which we know is a challenge that we have nationally, of enough seedlings. So we'll work with the schools to ensure we set up nurseries and teach them about the right species for the location in which they are in, and therefore we can be able to plant the 10 million trees within the next 5 years at ease of having the seedlings. This will also help the schools to become economically empowered, because we will come back and buy the trees from them as ABSA. And we'll also be working with different partners, whether they are corporates. For example, we've worked with partners such as Kenya Green Building Society. We'll be working with other corporates to kind of collaborate and be able to bring this project to life.
And Young Scientist Kenya, YSK, has received a 9 million shilling boost from Blaze by Safaricom ahead of its 4th annual National Science and Technology Exhibition for secondary school students. This year's exhibition will be conducted virtually from 5th to 8th October and follows a successful online adaptation of YSK outreach and mentorship program. It will feature 111 projects by 214 students from 30 counties, an increase compared to last year's edition that featured 64 projects by 122 students from 21 counties.
Safaricom continues to partner with YSK because YSK's vision of being able to provide a platform for our young people and help them to tap into their creativity and innovation resonates very strongly with Safaricom's vision and purpose of transforming lives. We believe that this partnership is very important in growing the creativity and innovation culture of our country. But then also we find that it's very important to help our young people realize that science is not boring, it is not uncool. Science is cool, it is exciting, it is very relevant for our lives.
We're also excited that in the course of this year, we have started to implement a Leave No Learner Behind approach. And this was inspired mainly by our experience after COVID came around, when we realized that there are students that we cannot reach because, they're in far-flung places, places without internet connectivity. Some of them are in Nairobi, Kisumu and Mombasa, but because of their social situations, they do not have access to smartphones or to computers or even to, just the ability to buy bundles to access the internet so that they can join our online sessions. We are very excited by the sponsorship from Safaricom. Always happy. I mean, Safaricom has been supporting us since our inception, and this year we are particularly happy because that sponsorship has enabled us to continue to undertake our outreach sessions and also to prepare for the exhibition. And very importantly, Safaricom supports help us to ensure that we are not leaving any students behind.
And some sports news now. Football Kenya Federation Deputy President Doris Petra on Monday presided over the opening ceremony of a 10-day CAFD coaching course at the Dr. Kraft Primary School in Maringo. Among the 40 participants taking part in the course is former Harambee Stars, Gor Mahia, Bandari, Red Berets, Sofapaka midfielder Eric Ochieng, who lauded the Federation for incorporating former players in their coaching courses and also urged the former players to seize the opportunity offered to them and attend the coaching courses.
Nimekuja kwa hii coaching course na feel time iko ripe ya mimi ku attend such courses, ndio at least niweze ku give back kwa younger players wale bado wanataka kulearn. Former players wenzangu na wale bado kuna wazoefu bado wale wanacheza, naweza wa urge wajitokeze, wasilost wajitokeze wakam kwa hizi ma grassroots coaching courses, ndio at least waweze ku go back huko chini, waweze kufundisha hao vijana wadogo na mademo wadogo waweze kulearn, because sisi ndio role models wa vijana. So tukipata hii knowledge, at least tukipeleka pale hivyo mtaani, au vijana wana grow poa na wana feed hizi timu kubwa za hapa hivi.
Well, I can say that we're having good coaches, and I think this is one of the things which the federations have seen, going to the mashinani, because I think on the grassroots level, I think that is where the problem is, because you find that you are getting kids who cannot even go into the national team, they can't even pass the ball, they can't even dribble, but for them they are going to the roots, and I think that is where they are doing their most important thing. And for me, being part of an instructor too, you know, mashinani is where football is being played.
For the opening of this Class D course, License D course, which has brought people together from so many counties, as far as Mombasa and Nyanza down, from almost all over the country. It's a class that we've realized it has even women coaches from women clubs and youth clubs, and even a few senior team club coaches in the course. Yes, there's a lot that is going on, because we've had several courses for grassroots, that is License D, License C, going on all over. People don't have to travel to Nairobi, because in almost every county, kuna courses being done at the request of those county officials. At FKF, we have a program for coaching, and this program is open to all the counties to organize a class, and then the FKF will provide them with the trainers who will go and train them.
I'm a big coach. You won't become a coach if you're not going through those.
The Kenya national rugby sevens team Shujaa bagged bronze at Edmonton Sevens after thrashing host Canada 33-14. Kenya dropped to the bronze playoff after succumbing to a 33-7 defeat to perennial rival South Africa in the semi-final. They finished second overall on 36 points after bagging silver at Vancouver Sevens. The match was a repeat of the Vancouver Sevens final, where South Africa convincingly beat Kenya 38-5 to win the cup title. Shujaa has had a massive improvement in terms of gameplay since the Tokyo 2020 Olympics dismal performance. African compatriots South Africa are the 2021 HSBC World Rugby Sevens Series champions after beating Great Britain 24-12 to clinch back-to-back wins in Canada. Harambee Stars captain Michael Olunga scored 5 goals after coming on as a second-half substitute to inspire Al Duhail to a 5-0 win over Al Sailiya in the Qatar Stars League. Olunga had missed his club's last 2 matches due to injury and returned hungrier to help his team collect all 3 points. Olunga took less than 10 minutes to open the scoring before the half-hour mark. The former Girona striker grabbed his hat-trick moments later with another tap before he made it 4-0 from a rebound in the 79th minute. All right, with that, we've come to the end of our broadcast tonight on Newswatch. Many thanks for staying with us. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time. I'm Tony Omondi, and our sign language interpreter has been Boniface Murithi. I leave you with tomorrow's weather forecast. Good night.